place to remember the almost 250,000 people who died with COVID-19.
When did you get red-pilled, Daddy? During the pandemic, son. Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Remember, we stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at these times. Join us to hear us speaking openly, as we've always tried to do, as we used to do on YouTube before YouTube became a conduit for globalism and imperialism as well as inanity. Well, there's still hope for all of us, because in the UK there's a COVID day of reflection. While Jay Bhattacharya is ascending to power in the United States, Jay was one of the most outspoken scientists during the COVID era who was willing to say that Fauci was probably lying, that many of the social distancing rules were arbitrary, and that you don't vaccinate during a pandemic. For all of that, he was smeared and condemned and shunned. Well, now he's back. Whatever you might think of the Trump MAGA Maha movement and some of the decisions that have been made since Trump came into office, you have to say that in the form of Bobby Kennedy, Jay Bhattacharya, Marty Makary, Dr. Oz, and others that have ascended to power when it comes to American health, we have some positives to hold on to. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. In the UK, we're not making bold changes and inviting peripheral figures into the tent to improve science and public health. Oh no, we're having a COVID day of reflection. Under the leadership of globalist Keir Starmer, we're getting a much needed day of reflection. Hey, do you know what we need after COVID and after everybody nearly died and we lost faith in the government and we lost faith in science? Well, I've been doing a little AIDS test down my dicky bird hole, and also we need a day of reflection. To be fair, bagpipes sound better live.
It was to this lament they walked together, right beside their loved ones, who are immortalised in the hand-painted red hearts of the National Memorial.
Ironically, those hearts that commemorate the dead might still be beating were it not for the myocarditis caused by vaccines. Can you say that now?
This is their family's place to remember the almost 250,000 people who died with COVID-19 in the UK.
Not from.
Who died with COVID-19.
Even the news, even in 2025, they're still propagandering you pretty hard.
Including Victoria's husband, Simon, who was 59.
He caught COVID 5 years next week, and he went into hospital, and they put him on a ventilator.
Yeah, they put him on a ventilator. Oh no, that might have been what killed him. Those ventilators overly inflate the lungs. Oh no. This is literally Orwellian. They're literally holding wakes and seances for the dead without conducting a proper inquiry into what killed them.
And then when his heart started to fail, they put a do not resuscitate on him, and he died.
How often do you think about that moment?
Mad question. What a mad question. How much do any of us think of those that we've lost in a variety of circumstances? Here's a question. Do you ever think that the ventilator... I mean, you can't really ask that to a grieving widow, but here, these are not questions that I would ask to a grieving widow, but these are the kind of questions that the legacy media should be asking. Was he vaccinated? Do you worry that that ventilator might have killed him? What comorbidities did he have? Do you think, on reflection, that we've properly understood the nature of the pharmaceutical industry? These are not questions for a grieving widow. These are questions for all of us to consider, and questions that the legacy media didn't ask then and don't ask now because they work for the same interests that possibly killed that woman's husband. Even there, with COVID, they're evoking your emotions. They want us in an emotional and lachrymose and vulnerable state so we can't think straight. But if you do think straight, know that it says at the bottom of the screen, with COVID. When have you ever talked like that before in history? My poor husband, he died with cancer. With it or from cancer? From cancer. Cancer killed him. Oh yeah, where did he get cancer? Curiously, after he got a bunch of vaccines. Because he was suffering with COVID.
You think about it all the time, you know.
How can anyone forget? Those who isolated and sacrificed stood with those who continue to grieve. Helen and Stephen Hughes did all three. Both healthcare workers, they did all they could to shield Helen's 79-year-old mother from the virus. But she died in January 2021.
And then it really sort of hit home when we was at work, seeing like really, really poorly people coming through the doors.
We were still trying to stay strong for all the family, weren't we? And still trying to do our day jobs as well.
Every day as well.
Yeah, it's something that, as a family, we're never going to get over.
Around the country, acts of community and a minute's silence allowed the chance to collectively remember the worst and most surreal of times. In Glasgow, Scotland's First Minister joined the tributes. And in the serenity of the Welsh valleys, mourners united in similar solemnity, where the impact of the pandemic is etched onto Bulk Mountain. The Yellow Heart was built by the bereaved.
This is an attempt to evoke sentimentality, a level of sentimentality that short-circuits your ability to rationally discern what happened during that period. We were lied to. The language that's being used to this day informs you that we were being lied to. Try to notice these details. It's significant and important. They're literally trying to map onto the land symbols of condolence and remembrance to distract us from the fact that many of those people died not as a result of COVID, which, by the way, was likely caused by irresponsible experimentation, gain-of-function research, but they might also have died as a result of shoddy social and political measures and poor clinical and pharmacological measures in the form of the The government's running on caffeine and corruption. Don't let your morning fuel be just as weak. 1775 coffee is roasted for rebels, revolutionaries, and anyone who thinks their coffee should taste like freedom, not like the tears of an overpaid diversity consultant. Dark roast, it hits harder than a tax audit. Medium roast, smoother than the excuses they give you when inflation spikes again. Vitality mushroom blend fuels your brain like you just figured out they're lying to you. Hand-picked single origin beans roasted fresh in my Amski, because your coffee should be fresher than whatever nonsense they're selling on the news today.
You can smell it.
And if bold flavour and non-compromising quality weren't enough, every dollar you spend enters you to win a Cybertruck and 30 grand in cash. That's right, free coffee, free truck, free money. Almost makes you feel like a politician, except this deal actually benefits you. I'm driving around in that Cybertruck. If you see me pass, I will take you anywhere within a 15-minute radius. I'm Cybertrucking around. I can't endorse absolutely every slogan on it, but most of them I wholeheartedly agree with. So if you want a near deadly cup of coffee and a lethal Cybertruck, make sure you're near a charging station when you use those things. Then go to 1775coffee.com, use the code BRAND for 15% off, and start your day like a real patriot with coffee that stands for something and refuses to sell for weak beans or weak leaders.
At the National Memorial Arboretum, writer and poet Michael Rosen reminded us of what was once the new normal.
Coughing and coughing, gasping for air, we remember. Empty streets, no cars anywhere.
Michael survived COVID after being in an induced coma for 48 days. He says a Remembrance Day like this is a must.
When you have a day of reflection, you know everybody's doing it. You know, it's not just me. I'm talking about my experience, but this is for everybody, so people can share it, and then we have a sense that you're not isolated, you're not left all alone suffering this stuff.
We also didn't need to be isolated and all alone during the pandemic, because the vast majority of people could have absorbed that peculiar, hybrid, molecularly unsound virus, live with its consequences and get on with their lives. And the vulnerable and those with comorbidities should always have been shielded, and the pharmacological measures should have been used a lot more circumspectly. A true moment of reflection would help us to reach those conclusions, and I say that with all due respect to that contributor. The one thing we should be remembering from the COVID era is that we were lied to, and we cannot trust big pharma, we cannot trust globalists, we cannot trust big corporations, and we cannot trust the government. Any other lesson learned is the dubious doubling down on the ignorance that led us to be exploited in the first place.
Hundreds of families didn't feel so alone today. It's why they want this tradition to continue as something for them and for those they've lost.
It actually disgusts me to see the grief and vulnerability of people exploited by the very same interests that led to that exploitation. They disgust me. What the legacy media will not show you are the protests against the mRNA research that likely led to the COVID outbreak, that you couldn't talk about on media, that you would be smeared, cancelled and censored for discussing at the height of the pandemic, and only now, because of platforms that have made a stand in favour of free speech, you can to a degree discuss. But I want you to bear in mind that there's still still saying with COVID, man. Let's have a look at those protests that the legacy media aren't reporting about now and certainly weren't reporting about during the height of the pandemic. There's Andrew Bridgen and a number of other advocates for truth and open dialogue protesting against the COVID Day of Remembrance because it's simply an attempt to ceremonialise the kind of deception that took place during the pandemic itself. So any COVID reflection would certainly include these points. Can you ever trust the government again? Can you trust Big Pharma again? Can you trust legacy media again? Should we not unite in faith in pursuit of truth, put aside some of our political differences and recognise that to be anti-establishment means speaking authoritatively, authentically and transparently when it comes to subjects like what went on in the pandemic? Why are the legacy media still using with? Oh man, the exploitation of emotion, the gall, like when Boxer was made a hero to the farm animals in Orwell's classic Animal Farm. Not only is it beyond parody, it's already been parodied. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Remember, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we stream on Rumble. Join us there at these times. And if you get Rumble Premium, you get additional content on top of that. More important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.